Hey there, guys. This is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and guess what? It's story time. I hope you're ready for some literature. I don't know if you guys consider comic books or graphic novels as literature, but I personally do, especially on an academic level. And that's mainly what I'm talking about when I talk about literature, because obviously it's a story and a work of art, both textually and visually. But you've likely heard of this character regardless of whether or not you know about Dungeons and Dragons. Drizzt Do'Urden, or however you say his name. I still don't really know how to say his name, and to be honest, I don't think R.A. Salvatore knows either. But he's a drow or a dark elf, one of the most popular D&D characters of all time, and as such, he's had several books about his adventures. And as such, he's been in video games and whatnot, and of course he has some comic books about him. And I was going to start doing the novels, but then I heard about the comic book adaptations of the novels. Though I will go ahead and say that there are only 6 out of the total, 15 or so books. I don't even think there's probably more than 15, but the first 6 books have been made into a comic. And I read these in an omnibus by IDW Publishing. And I'm going to review them based on the specific book in particular. And I haven't read the second one yet, and it's been a while since I've read these, but I will do what I can to review them, because I kind of got interested in this character because I really like dark elves, and I really wanted to know about this character because he seemed really popular and whatnot. He still has books about him too, like R.A. Salvatore is still making material, and he's a very interesting character too. But as you can tell, we're going to start with Homeland, the first book, The Legend of Drizzt, Book 1. The giant big origin story of Drizzt, basically. And I will say, I do have the books. I haven't read all of them, so my perspective on Exile and Sojourn are going to be from the comic books. Though in terms of Homeland, I have read up to chapter 6 of the novel. And it's made me think about writing in general. So I will. I have that base. So any of you guys are gonna be like, you're a scrub. You didn't read the novels." Well, I read a little bit of Homeland. So, but yeah, this is the Drizzt origin story. It opens with, takes place in Menzoberranzan, the underground city in the Underdark, where all the drow live. I'm sure there's more than one place where the drow live, and it's during a I guess I don't really know what to call it. Maybe like a house hunt or something. Basically, there are different houses that rise up to ranks, and House Do'Urden is trying to eliminate this one house. And the way their legal system works is that if you do everything cleanly, if you execute your crime cleanly to where there's no evidence and whatnot, it's fine. It's not illegal. And it's mainly to show just how ruthless the drow are. That's really important to Drizzt's character in particular. That the drow are just these sinister, evil, play by their own rules kind of thing. And the Dark Elf in Champions of Narth was very much like that too. He came off as very sinister, though I felt like he was a bit more controlled. Where I feel like the drow might be a little more ruthless, if you ask me. And they show Drizzt being born as a baby, and I forget exactly what happens. Apparently, he's to get sacrificed to the Spider Queen or something. But then in this it shows further their greed and whatnot. I think it's the middle son of House Do'Urden kills the eldest so he can become the oldest, and thus allowing Drizzt to come in. I think part of it was because they had too many boys. One thing about the drow that I've noticed, that the women in particular seem to be the ones in power. In a way, the males kind of come off as servants in a way. That may be totally wrong, but the women in particular seem to be very strong, independent, magical women. And then it kind of goes more into like, they had one survivor of the house that they tried to eliminate, and he's gonna try and get back, and like get back and get revenge on House Dordan. And what he does is like he melts his face and becomes the faceless one and whatnot. From what I remember from the novel, like the actual novel, the pacing in the graphic novel is a lot quicker because again, as I said, like all this stuff that I'm mentioning is told over the course of like 5 chapters. And there's some other exposition stuff I'm sure I'm forgetting to talk about, but like Drizzt showing up as a child to where he actually has a true character. That was in like a few pages, whereas in the novel, like the text novel, it was at chapter 6, and it's on like his like 13th birthday or something. And this is he starts to kind of, he's actually kind of interesting. He is sort of, he thinks the way of the Drow are kind of strange, and he gets sent to what's basically hunter school. And he sees like how ruthless the Drow are, and he has this teacher, I forget his name, like Zek Nafrkins or something. He calls him Zek or Zach, who ends up being his dad. But and Zach, I'm just gonna call him Zach for the time being because I don't remember his full name. But Zach is also, he's very much like a hunter of the Drow. He doesn't like the way of the Drow, but he kind of hunts. It's almost kind of therapeutic for him to kind of kill off Drow, even if the intention behind it is to sort of kill off Drow and make House of Dordan kind of rise to power. But it's sort of him kind of playing the game a little bit, to be honest, and that's actually kind of interesting. That seems to be a very adult mindset, where like even if you don't agree with it, you're still trying to like kind of play the game. I see a lot of parents being all like, I'm stuck in this, I'm just gonna play the game. But he's also trying to teach Drizzt to kind of not play the game. I feel like that was sort of his intention. And so Drizzt becomes like a big hunter, and he becomes really powerful as a hunter and really skilled. But one thing about him is that he is trying to he has like this hunter tendency that he's trying to hide. And while he generally is against the way of the Drow, it's still something that kind of eats at him, something he has to kind of fight at. His desire to hunt and kill. And he kind of has this a bit of a breaking point when he and some other Drow are gonna do a raid on this elf party. And like they're just kind of hanging out. It's like, oh, they're evil, they're terrible, we need to kill them. And they show them they're just having a little party. They're not doing anything. But Drizzt's crew comes in and just murders them all. One of my favorite scenes in the book. Drizzt does a swipe at a little girl and makes her kind of fall down. Then he falls on her and says like, "Don't say anything." And then he gets like, "Oh, the child is dead. She's dead." And so that kind of starts up like a big controversy in particular, because it's the first time he's sort of gone against the way of the Drow, and it also strikes up a rumor like, oh, he killed a child. And so it's this is sort of like kind of him sort of starting to develop more, and him realizing that he's not really he's not like other Drow. And one thing in particular, like they do this at like sunrise or like early sunrise, and like he kind of stays behind, and they show like him kind of smiling at the sun as it's rising, and it kind of shows that it's sort of like symbolic that being in the dark, being like this evil thing is not in his nature. Even if he's having to fight against it, it's still like not his nature. It's mainly like, it's actually kind of interesting when you think about it metaphorically. I don't know if R.A. Salvatore intended it this way, but it's interesting when you think about what it could mean towards a society. But and then like Zack, like, oh, he killed the child. I'm gonna kill him, and Drizzt is all like, oh, like wait, I forget what exactly his reason was. You'll have to forgive me, I don't remember too much. Most of my memory is towards exile and Sojourn, mainly Sojourn, but so they basically Drizzt decides he needs to kill Zack, and he doesn't know he's his dad. But then they duke it out, and it's like, oh, it was a misunderstanding. I didn't kill the child. I tried to say like, I knew you were saved, and at that point, that's when Drizzt decides that he needs to get out of Menzoberranzan, the city. I mean, the Underdark is really large, so he'd be traveling a lot, but he can't stay in Menzoberranzan. And basically what happens at the end is, Zack gets killed, and then he's basically betrayed House Dordan and kind of renounced his family in a way, like, but like now, so they're kind of after him now, and basically the book ends with him like going through the Underdark and some other stuff. There's some other stuff like this headmaster of the school trying to kill him because he and like the new faithless one, they want to kill Drizzt. He ends up taking like this panther thing. I forget the panther's name, but like she's stored in like this onyx statue, and he becomes her friend, and they become buds. That part I don't really remember too much about, but this is a review after all, so the main focus is what I thought. But the art style for the graphic novel, it was okay. There were times where it kind of felt rushed, honestly, like, oh, we got to get this promotion and adaptation of the book, and because of that, like, it didn't look perfect. Like, there are times where characters' faces looked like they were so contorted that they changed a little too much, and I know that may be a little more realistic because, our faces as human beings are very elastic in a way, especially if people who really know how to work their face. But it came off as like kind of hard to give the characters like a unique design, in my opinion, or at least the drow. Like, obviously, once we get to Sojourn, where there's primarily other races besides Drizzt being a drow, not a drow, but so the art style I thought was okay. In terms of accuracy to the novel, it seemed to be pretty accurate. I mean, from what I understand, R.A. Salvatore worked on it anyway, worked on the script. And in terms of the books, like, the pacing's a lot different, and there's a lot less detail told textually, because obviously since it's a graphic novel, there's a lot of stuff you can tell with image. And I remember there was one little funny part in the novel where, like, this guy was running away. I think it was the faceless one or someone was running away from this higher up in like the academy, and he's like, oh, there's a mirror, maybe it'll take me to a hidden portal or something. I jumped through the mirror. Oh no, it was just a mirror. It was just that little silly moments. And I might try to read the novels again. I unfortunately don't have the graphic novel omnibus anymore because a page fell out of the Sojourn section, and I tried to fix it, couldn't, so I just threw it out. I'm gonna have to buy another one. I still have the second one though, and I do plan on picking that one up after I finish this review of the first three. But overall, like, I really liked it. I thought that it was a really good story. Sure, it's a bit cliche, like, oh, all these people are evil, but there was one who was not like the others. And you're like, well, that doesn't matter. Like, it's still a really good story, and I feel like this is probably I really like how the dark elves in this story are portrayed. Even, like, in the eyes, Drizzt looks a little different. Like, because they show the drow having primarily red eyes, whereas Drizzt has lavender. It shows, he's not like the other drow. He's different. I guess my only thing is, like, I find it strange that he's, like, suddenly just different. Like, what made his growth different to make him want to be different than the other drow? Maybe that's something I'm missing in the novel. so I might have to read it again. It is like a 300 to 400 page novel, so that's quite the challenge. But overall, that's what I thought of Homeland. I liked it, honestly. And I remember when I read the novel, I got really into it. And I started reading, and that's the whole reason why I was going to start, why I kind of got as far as I did. Though I guess since I've read up to Sojourn, I can kind of skip around a little bit. But I don't know. Reading text has been a bit tough for me. It's kind of hard to just kind of sit down and focus. But yeah, that's what I think of Homeland. I'd recommend it. Either the novel, though with the novel, keep in mind things are going to be like stretched out a little bit because there's a lot of exposition. And a lot of stuff has to be told textually. So if you want something a little more faster paced, I'd say try to find the graphic novel. I think it's sold separately and not in the omnibus if you really just want Homeland just to kind of see for yourself. Though I would recommend getting the omnibus because you would have all 3 books. Plus, they show this image that I'm showing you guys in the video in the actual book, like in the actual omnibus. So, but that's what I think. I enjoy it, and I would recommend it. And I look forward to talking about the rest. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Next will be Exile, which I'll get to at some point. But, yeah. Bye-bye.